Special meeting of the McLean County Board this Thursday, May 28th, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the invocation by Member Metzger.
Almighty God, thank you for the beauty and majesty that we see in your creation. Thank you for the opportunity to care for the world you have made. We ask that your blessing would rest upon this board, that you would give us great vision, wisdom, and enthusiasm for our work. Please bless the efforts of our hands, the bonds between us, and the influence of our work in McLean County and beyond. Lord, as we debate and discuss, please guide us and lead us. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Morlock, will you please call the roll?
Jacob Beard.
Present.
Lindsay Bloomfield.
Present.
William Casely. Is he not working?
He's present.
Yeah, he's present.
Present.
Okay. Sharon Chung.
Present.
Chuck Erickson.
Present.
William John Friedrich.
Present.
George Gordon.
Present.
Elizabeth Johnston.
Here.
Randall Martin.
Present.
Catherine Metzger.
Present.
Carlo Robustelli.
Present.
Susan Schaefer.
Here.
Logan Smith.
Here.
James Solner.
Here.
Gerald Thompson.
Present.
Shana Wachinski.
Here.
George Wendt.
Present.
Lori Woolrab.
Here.
Josh Barnett.
Present.
So you have all members present, sir.
Thank you. We have 20 members present, no one after. We do have a quorum, and we'll move on our agenda right away to members, letters of members from the public, and Ms. Morlock has graciously agreed to read them again. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. We had 7 comments submitted. Number 1, I am writing in opposition to the adoption of the Restore Heart of Illinois proposal. The Illinois Department of Public Health took great care in preparing the statewide 5-stage plan. I can't see any logical argument that 11 of 102 counties should be entitled to operate outside of that plan and move through only 3 stages of recovery. The current trend in McLean County shows an increasing number of cases, and we're scheduled to lose our only public testing site on May 22nd. Our attention should be on increasing testing and building capacity for contact tracing, not on taking valuable time on a proposal that conflicts with the work of the IDPH and distracts the attention of government and public health officials from the important work at hand. The fact that the proposal was so hastily prepared that officials from Marshall County, which is included in the proposed sub-region, weren't even consulted before the plan was unveiled, forces me to question the motives of those who prepared it. And she has a reference to the Peoria Journal-Star. Clearly, the emphasis was on speed and not on careful planning. During a global pandemic that has already taken the lives of over 90,000 Americans, I want to know that leaders are making carefully considered and thoroughly vetted decisions that prioritize the health and safety of area residents. The Restore Heart of Illinois proposal does not appear to meet this expectation. Jill Blair. Number 2, dear Chairman McIntyre and members of the board, as a healthcare worker and father of a 2-time cancer survivor, I am writing to oppose adoption of the Heart of Illinois reopening plan. Regardless of their political views, no one wants to remain in a permanent shutdown. The economic and social pain we've gone through during the last 2 months is real and needs to be acknowledged. However, jumping the gun and restarting certain sectors of our economy could undo all of the work we've done to keep COVID-19 in check throughout Central Illinois. I have treated numerous patients in various stages of this disease and can tell you horror stories of what this virus does to the human body. Before you act, please ask yourselves if adopting this plan is worth the risk to our most vulnerable citizens and to frontline workers and their families. Yours, Thomas J. Witt. Number 3, I am a resident of McLean County and want to express my concerns with the county board fast-tracking the Heart of Illinois reopening plan at tonight's special meeting of the county board. The report from the County Board of Health/Health Department is not available to the public yet, and my understanding is that it will be discussed at the board meeting tonight. This is not acceptable for multiple reasons. First, the public should be provided ample time to review the health department's report prior to major decisions being made regarding public health. Second, I have concerns that the county board members themselves will not be adequately informed or aware of the information provided in that report before making major decisions. A decision that will significantly impact the public health of the residents of McLean County cannot be made politically. The decision must be made by experts in healthcare and public health. When a decision like steamrolling ahead with the Heart of Illinois reopening plan is made, especially without adequate time to take into consideration the input of public health experts, this sends the message that the county board cares more about the economy than human life. Please take the time to become fully informed on this topic and review the information being provided to you by experts before making decisions. Please allow the residents of McLean County that you serve have time to review the recommendation from the Health Department/Board of Health so they can provide county members feedback. Please respect the expertise of public health and healthcare workers and prioritize their knowledge and data to making decisions on what is the best interest of residents of McLean County. Lindsay O'Brien. Number 4, I contacted county board members via email on May 20th with my concerns, stressing that public health officials should be the strongest voice in this decision. If, in the goal of reinstating the economy, insufficient weight is given to health risks, we face not only an increase of additional COVID-19 cases and deaths, but further economic fallout from the additional cases. In preparation for the May 28th meeting, 1, it is imperative that the McLean County Board of Health be permitted to formally respond to the plan prior to a vote. The Board of Health discussed both plans last week, but did not come to a decision. Our public health officials should be leading on this issue, not politicians. 2, it is advisable to consult with the state government and our insurance provider before proceeding to be sure the county and businesses within the county won't be held liable, thereby jeopardizing funding and risking legal ramifications. Sarah Breeden. 5, this is to the McLean County Board from Mark Judd. Topics: 1, reopen McLean County. 2, Illinois secession from Chicago. Thanks for this opportunity. Topic number 1. First off, I believe COVID-19 is real and that it does kill people. I have not given to conspiracy theories or hysteria about its existence. The reasonable response of flatten the curve has given way to lock down everything until we have a vaccine. This is not sustainable. There are many viruses for which there are no vaccine. Could COVID-19 be one of them? The governor assumes there is a vaccine/cure coming. Is he going to keep us locked down indefinitely? He, Pritzker, close paren, is breaking the law. As you well know, he has emergency executive powers for 30 days, after which the legislature must act to sustain his orders. That has not happened. His latest power grab last Friday includes: 1, state police arrest of anyone defying him, possible jail sentence and fine. 2, state police could arrest anyone defying him in their comments on social media, i.e. Facebook, close paren. 3, revoking business licenses of those that defy him. 4, withholding tax funding for governmental units that defy him. 5, businesses he deems non-essential are to remain closed. 6, businesses that he deems shall only be allowed curbside service, while big box stores make record profits, Walmart, Home Depot, Menards, etc., while continuing business as usual, close paren. Notice the pattern above? He, Pritzker, is calling the shots, and we downstate minions have no rights to self-governance on a local level. He will tell us what's good for us. It's all about JB. The governor's 5-phase reopening plan is ridiculous. Only at phase 5 are we allowed to return to normal life. My church cannot fully open until phase 5. Who knows when that will be? A stark reminder of the injustice going on appeared in my mailbox last week. McLean County wants my property taxes to be paid. As you know, Illinois has the second highest property taxes in the USA, but I digress. Close paren. So to rub salt into my wounds, the governor won't allow people to earn the money to pay these property taxes. Does McLean County relish the idea of putting tax liens on people's properties who can't afford to pay their property taxes? We the people, of Illinois, close paren, are being put into the position of either feeding the state government or feeding our families. We cannot do both in this environment. And Illinois wonders why people are moving away in droves. I was born and raised in Illinois, and I have seriously entertained moving away to another state. It's beyond embarrassing to admit to anyone that I am from Illinois. Many more things can be said about this governor's illegal actions, but I'll shorten it to my request to the McLean County Board. I respectfully request that McLean County be reopened, with common sense safeguards, close paren. Many other counties are doing the same, and neighboring states are well ahead of us.
Time.
Is that 15 minutes or?
That was 3 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you want me to keep going with him or?
I don't know how much time that was the time limit on that particular speaker.
Okay. Sixth speaker, McLean County Board members. I am a resident in McLean County District 3, and I'm calling on you and all the board members to support the Restore Heart of Illinois plan. This plan makes more sense than the plan our governor has put in place. Central Illinois should not be under the same restrictions as the Chicago area. Governor Pritzker has shown time and again that this is not about healthcare, it's about politics and his power. He and the mayor of Chicago go by the mantra of do as I say, not as I do. Getting the Restore Heart of Illinois plan approved will allow for a realistic gathering of people to celebrate the graduation of 10 homeschool seniors in our community, my daughter being one of them. Might I add that there was a graduation ceremony for 88 new Chicago Fire Department EMTs on May 12th. Once again, do as I say, not as I do. May I also point out that just because Illinois is going to be in phase 3 this weekend, that doesn't mean all businesses that are allowed to open actually can. The regulations are so costly that in several cases, business owners still cannot open because they are unable to make enough to cover the expense of the new regulations. These businesses are dying and there is no reason for it. Thank you for your time, Brandy and Melody McClure. Number 7, McLean County Board members. I have read the Board of Health report on its readiness to support reopening, and I am writing to you today to ask that you consider not holding a vote on the resolution to implement the Heart of Illinois reopening plan based on the findings in the memo dated May 26, 2020. The Health Department Administrator said the following, quote, I do not believe the McLean County Health Department has the necessary systems in place nor resources to safely move forward on our own with the Heart of Illinois plan at this time, close quote. Quote, going out on our own leaves McLean County vulnerable to repercussions, including potential loss of state funding. Loss of state funding would either necessitate cuts to McLean County Health Department personnel, leaving us incapable of maintaining the operations necessary for recovery, or the McLean County Health Department would need to request an increase to the tax levy to cover budget losses, close paren. Without the approval from all 11 counties, and especially the lead county, this subregion does not exist, and therefore the Heart of Illinois plan, as it is written, cannot be implemented, close paren. Given the statements above, I do not see how the county board can hold this vote. If you do vote, I urge you to allow the public health officials to lead on this issue and vote against implementation of the Heart of Illinois plan. Thank you for your time and consideration, Anna Darrow. That's the end of my statements, and those will all be included in the minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Morlock. We'll move on. Item 6 is consent agenda. We have no consent agenda to consider tonight. Next is report of standing committees. We have no reports from standing committees. And we'll move on to the report of the county administrator, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members of the McLean County Board. I thank you for this opportunity to speak briefly this evening. I would just like an opportunity to share a couple of my observations regarding what I believe is planned to be discussed this evening, which is the Restore Illinois Plan and the Heart of Illinois Plan. My observations offer a couple of constants or similarities. I do see that no matter which plan is endorsed this evening, that McLean County will need to have more testing to identify those who need to isolate. I also believe that we will need more contact tracing to investigate and identify close contacts that need to quarantine. I think another constant will always be cooperation from the public to mitigate any of the risks that COVID has brought in our community, or to stop outbreaks or disease spread. And that includes simple things like hand washing or wearing masks when you can't socially distance. I also believe that either plan does require access to and analysis of data. You know, in preparation for this meeting, I decided to reach out to my colleagues in all 11 counties that are named in the Heart of Illinois Plan. And to date, what I have found out is that 0 of those counties are adopting the Heart of Illinois Plan. In fact, my counterpart in Peoria County, as well as the city, well, not my counterpart in that city, but I'm just saying in my Peoria city and county, the authors of the plan, they are not adopting the plan. I spoke with my counterpart this afternoon, Scott Sorrell. He's the county administrator in Peoria. And he officially confirmed to me that they will not be bringing forth the Heart of Illinois Plan to their county board. In fact, he said that over the weekend, when the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity released their reopening recommendations, they got to work to use those recommendations to create some of their own updates for local businesses. They're focusing on creating that local guidance, and they even have created a website. Ms. McKnight had mentioned that to you before. It is up and running. It is a place and space where their businesses can register, obtain information, get a certificate to show their patrons that they're involved in utilizing the reopening guidance, and really have a place and space to document their participation in those kinds of recommended plans going forth from the state. The other thing I found very interesting from my short conversation with the Peoria County Administrator was, in addition to the fact that they are not going to adopt the plan that they put forward to the state, they are also actually adopting a couple of stricter guidelines for their county businesses. For example, those businesses in their county that hold liquor licenses are not going to be able to have live music venues at this time yet. And they are also restricting the hours of operation that those with liquor licenses in the county will be able to hold. I believe at this time, for example, 7 days a week prior to these adopted restrictions by the county, they were able to stay open until 2 a.m. and they're going to place some restrictions on that. I don't want to be the authority on Peoria County's precise plans in this regard, but I wanted you to know that in that conversation, it just became clear to me that my colleague, one of the participants in authoring this Heart of Illinois plan that you will discuss tonight, absolutely confirmed that they won't be adopting it. I think that they had every good intention to influence some change in the Restore Illinois plan. I know that their health department administrator, Monica Hendrickson, was a full participant with Dr. Ezike and the Illinois Department of Public Health chief of staff in a work group that participated in effectuating some of the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity guidelines, as well as some of these most recently updated changes to the Restore Illinois plan that I'm certain you've heard about, because as of just in a day or two here, we're going to see some of those changes and those restrictions kind of get updated. In all, I just appreciate this opportunity. I know some of you probably have had your own discussions. Only a couple of you have called me about my observations, and that's okay. But I wanted this opportunity, and I thank the chairman for it, to provide you with some of my observations at this time from the county administrator perspective. If I may now, Chairman, I would like to take this opportunity to move along in the agenda and introduce the Board of Health President, Carla Pohl. She is here this evening and she would like to address the county board. Ms. Pohl, thank you. Excuse me.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening.
Chairman McIntyre, thank you for your time and for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Carla Pohl. I'm president of the Board of Health, and I'm also an advanced practice nurse. The Board of Health is primarily concerned with ensuring the McLean County Health Department has the capacity and resources to support the reopening of McLean County businesses and services. As you know, we had quite a board meeting last week to discuss this. The HOI framework is no longer a regional plan. If McLean County follows this framework, we will be on our own, unable to depend on other counties for support, particularly in the area of data collection and hospital resources. The health department does not have the capacity at this current time to collect, monitor, and respond to health indicators in this standalone situation. I am also concerned how this will affect our relationship with the Illinois Department of Public Health, hospitals, and healthcare providers in the surrounding counties. The success of reopening our county will rest on our citizens' willingness to wear face masks, maintain 6 feet distance, and continue to engage in frequent hand washing per the CDC guidelines. And now I'd like to introduce Jessica McKnight, the administrator of the McLean County Health Department.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. My task tonight is to tell the county board what it will take to implement the Heart of Illinois plan as an 11-county region. However, as we've heard and has previously been noted in my memo, no other counties in this region, including the lead county, have adopted this plan or have the intentions to adopt the plan. As noted in my memo that you received, the McLean County Health Department does not at this time have the capacity in place to fulfill our role in the implementation of this framework as a standalone county. I've also provided you with the timeframe and plan for when we could expand testing and contact tracing in order to implement the Heart of Illinois plan in McLean County. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Ms. McKnight at this time? I have a few things to say, and then we'll move on the agenda. I'd like to give you some facts and a little review as a report as well. Some of this you already know, but let me read through it very quickly. On Friday, May 8th, I participated in a video conference with many other members of mayors and county board chairman and mayors Kusin and Renner from Central Illinois. That was on Friday, May 8th. We were invited to this conference by Mayor Jim Artis, PRA Board, County Board Chair Andrew Rand, and Health Director Monica Hendrickson, who presented us with their newly created Restore Heart of Illinois plan. The plan looked pretty well founded, and we were asked to send a letter of support for this plan to be considered by Governor Pritzker. Both mayors pulled their councils and sent letters at that time Later, the councils withdrew their support. I waited to take a consensus, as you know, of our executive committee and then pulled the rest of our board and took a straw poll. I had what I thought was pretty much a split decision amongst all of you and decided that I would not bring this for a vote to send a letter. Let me repeat, a letter for consideration of the plan to Governor Pritzker at that time. One reason I did was because 2 days later, after our executive committee, at the end of a press conference on TV, Mayor Artis of Peoria was asked by a reporter if the originators of the Heart of Illinois plan would go ahead with it, even if the governor denied it, and the mayor of Peoria said that they would. This caused me to also reconsider, and I decided not to bring it to our board. Both councils in our community did the same. I decided not to bring a consent resolution to our board to vote on sending the letter of support at our May 19th full board meeting. I didn't want a partisan vote on an issue that would not show any kind of unison of support from this board to request the governor to consider such a different type of a plan. Right after that, Member Erickson brought another resolution based on the Clark County, Illinois plan. After a discussion with Chuck, he stated that he intended to amend the resolution to the HOI plan. After more discussion, Member Erickson compromised with me and at my request agreed to pull that resolution and asked 7 members to send letters to our county clerk requesting a special meeting scheduled as it is tonight for May 28th. In the days since, I have contacted all other 10 counties, talked to county board chairmen, thought to be part of a subsection as was originally designed in the HOI plan. None of the county boards have chosen to participate in that plan. Peoria County said they would consider the plan during their full board meeting on June 11th. Since that time, Governor Pritzker adjusted his guidelines for Restore Illinois Phase 3. During a video conference this past Tuesday, May 28th, 2 days ago, Mayor Jim Artis responded to my questions that the HOI plan was not being implemented as there now is not enough difference to go ahead with the HOI plan. During a phone call today between Scott Sarles, Peoria County Administrator, Mr. Rodriguez, and myself, Mr. Sarles said that the Peoria County Board has withdrawn all consideration of bringing the implementation of the HOI plan to a vote. That same was just said an hour ago on television by Peoria Mayor Jim Artis on Peoria Television. Although as much as I and the mayor supported the original concept of the HOI plan and it being sent to the governor for consideration, I simply can't vote for or against something that does not currently exist. And so at this point in time, I would like to request Member Erickson to consider pulling from our agenda his resolution because as the reason for conducting this meeting has become a moot point. And that's my statement for now. And I will move on the agenda now. Back to you, member. I'm sorry, member. Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman. I will move on then to 7B2A. I bring forth an item to be presented for action. It is a resolution for the immediate implementation of the Restore Heart of Illinois plan authored by the City of Peoria, Peoria County, and the Peoria City County Health Department. It is located on pages 3 through 20 of your packet.
Items for action, item B2A, item for action is a resolution for immediate implementation of the Restore Heart of Illinois plan authored by the City of Peoria, Peoria County, and the Peoria City County Health Department. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we present the item for action tonight.
Okay, is there a second? Second by member Thompson. Motion by member Erickson, second by member Thompson. We'll have discussion on this motion. I'll start out with member Erickson, giving the reason for his resolution, and then we'll go on. I'd like to limit this to 2 rounds of discussion. I feel that that's self-defeating to go on further than that. So member Erickson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to note that the chairman did call me and did tell me that he was going to say what he said. And so I appreciate the professionalism in him calling me and letting me know that that was going to be the statement that he was going to make tonight. But it still doesn't change my view of the matter. Due to this devastation in the local economy and to get revenue flowing again, it has always been my position that we have a plan and we have a start date. When I initially proposed a plan, it was the Clark County plan, but I had always said publicly and privately to anyone who had asked that I was not wedded to any plan. I just want a plan. I think we want a plan that those members that were with me that reopens the economy, but does it safely. I am not of the opinion that we do need to back up at this point, but that we do need a plan. There are enough metrics and data gathering and scope and plan that we can go forward with the Peoria plan as initially proposed. I would note in the Peoria plan that they were going to move into a phase that was further along than the governor's phase, and that I think that is prudent at this time because of the data that is in McLean County. I'm going to be brief on this initial round because I'd like to save my comments for the second round. So that's what I intend to say, and I intend to go forward with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? I'll try to see the big screen here. Any discussion? Member Beard, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this has been, I think, unlike anything, a decision that's been before any of us, and over the last couple of months. And this is going to be something that stays with us for years and years. You know, in the same way we think about other significant events in our life, in the life of the nation. That's what this is going to be. So I want to say that I think we're all on the same page. So the contours of this discussion are everyone's in agreement that we cannot be on lockdown indefinitely. With Restore Illinois, we are going to be opening up tomorrow. So we are going to be opening up with COVID still around. No one who wants to close is a close until there's a vaccine. We understand that. We also understand that the reopen is not a return to normal. No one's advocating for going about things like you would have last summer, not wearing masks. That's where I think we are in agreement that hand washing, social distancing, wearing masks where appropriate. Those are things that we need to do to keep this virus at bay until there is a treatment. So I think we're all working within those confines and understanding that we are potentially coming to different places there. But that is where I think all 20 members and where just about every public figure is. And so within that context, I think the Heart of Illinois plan, I think of it as the same way I think about Chicago's 5-star plan, which Chicago put out. It is a complementary plan to Restore Illinois. It is not a contradictory plan. There are components of it which are unique to our area, in the same way there are components to Chicago's plan, which was spoken of favorably. Now there are different, the differences are things like a 14-day, or in our case, a 21-day versus a 28-day turnaround time. But really, with the changes made this past week to the Restore Illinois plan, we are putting out a plan that is in one sense stricter. We're proposing potentially we need to put together better and more advanced metrics as a way to better understand and educate about the virus. But with that, we're also acknowledging that ways the virus does not travel, outdoor activities, certain retail places. So it is, in my mind, it is stricter, but it also is more tailored to our community and to the communities that we interact with favorably. So I am disappointed in our governor's office, and I'll try to wrap it up here, that 10 days ago, it was the office of the governor had the impression that there were only 26 tests being done here and that there were multiple testing facilities. That is a concern. We have not heard back from the Illinois Department of Public Health officially on this plan. It is an offhand comment from the governor's office and a threat of funding. That is the consequence we would be looking at potentially. That is discouraging. And with all things being equal, the Heart of Illinois plan, the metrics that are in place, in my mind, as I see it, is a better way, is a more accurate and precise way to understand the risks going forward, to understand that there could be a second wave. And some of those advanced metrics, the relationship with businesses, which are not contemplated in the Restore Illinois plan, but are in the Heart of Illinois plan, those are going to be good things that we'll want to do that will help us and potentially our neighbors better understand the virus as we go forward. And finally, the last thing I'll say is the point on buy-in from the public is so important. And by being able to go with the plan that people believe in is so important, and be able to say, this is something that we want to do. It's a better plan. You got to wear the face mask when a business is enforcing that and is wanting that. You've got to social distance. You've got to adhere to occupancy restrictions. That is so important. And by doing a plan locally that is tailored for the community, I feel there's a better opportunity for that. And also I'll hold it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Member Solmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my initial comment is that I know and believe the citizens of McLean County are wanting action. I think we've all been patient. I think that we want things reopened. We do want them reopened safely. We've got guidelines we're going to go by. We've been going by suggested guidelines as far as social distancing and masks and all that. But I think it's time for us to start reopening. Now, I realize tomorrow we're going to start reopening, and that's great. I'm just concerned that the next phase for more businesses to be able to reopen is going to be a while. I had a question of Ms. McKnight if she's still there. In her letter, maybe Camille can answer this.
Ms.
In her
McKnight,
letter,
Member
sorry, go
Solmer,
ahead.
Ms. McKnight will be coming to the podium.
Okay. So in her letter, she mentioned on page 4 that McLean County Health Department will use the $2.8 million in grant funding to support its contact tracing expansion. At the very end of that paragraph, she said they're looking to start hiring between 10 and 15 contact tracers for part-time temporary work by July 31st. And so I guess what my question is, does that mean that we can't go on with any reopening until that happens? Or I just would like for her to expound on that a little bit. Thank you.
Sure. So, regardless, I think I mentioned it in my memo, regardless of what plan that we move forward with, contact tracing is going to be a constant key to our response. And so we will be looking to add contact tracers to our facility and our response either way, no matter what plan that we are going with. This is just how long it will take us to have that in place.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Anyone else? Member Robustelli?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. Having been on the county board for now over 7 years, this is definitely a first, right? It's a first for all of us to sort of grapple with a global pandemic and the ways in which it's devastating local businesses and also putting lots of our residents' health at extreme risk. And so I just want to start really by saying that I'm approaching this conversation and this discussion with some assumptions. And those assumptions are that every single person on this board is trying to do what's best. I can say that I didn't get elected to do what was popular. I got elected to try to do what I thought was best for my constituents and for our community. And so I hope that we can approach this discussion in that way. There are a few points that I think, for me, make it extremely difficult to support this motion. The first has been articulated, I think, really well by Ms. Rodriguez and the chairman. And that is that the plan author is abandoned their plan. So a regional plan without the region all buying in and adopting it makes it impossible to do the regional metrics that have been laid out in it. So I've heard a few colleagues reference other plans like the Chicago 5-star plan that was developed by Chicago, and then they implemented the plan. This plan was developed by Peoria County because they have an epidemiologist. Neighboring counties, including ours, does not have that level of expertise. And it was developed at a time and place before there was a statewide plan. I think that's really important for contextual information. There was the Restore Illinois plan had not been released, and this plan, their epidemiologists started to develop a regional plan that made sense. Then the governor released the Restore Illinois plan, and there was an effort to try to see if there would be an opportunity to explore whether or not that plan could be integrated. But since then, the authoring county has said, no, it's not possible, and has moved aggressively to providing clarity to their local business owners and to their community about the phase 3 of the statewide reopening plan. And for me, especially in my district that has a lot of locally owned businesses who I've spent a lot of time talking to, they are ramping up and investing in trying to make the most of what they know will be the plan tomorrow. So there are significant consequences for us to be considering a plan that we are unable today to track the regional metrics that are laid out into it that would provide considerable uncertainty to our residents and to businesses, because we don't have the toolkits. We don't have a toolkit built. We don't have any of the support that we would need to provide the information that would be possible. So I would just say that I hope, one last thing. We got a note from the mayor of Bloomington. My understanding is that the rural mayors have spent some time discussing this and deliberating on it. There is no rural mayor that has come out in support of fully implementing this plan. And so I would just say that that's another way in which this is very different. In Peoria, the city and the county collaborated in generating this plan. They didn't collaborate with our health department or any of the other county health departments in developing it. We have not collaborated with the most important partners that we have locally. We have to have something of this gravity coordinated. We have to think through how it will work. Everyone needs to understand it. And as far as I understand, the city of Bloomington has not been engaged, the town of Normal, Lexington, Chenoa, no communities have been engaged in this discussion. So for us to sort of make this decision without having engaged communities across the county in a deliberative process, I think would be misinformed, and I think it would be misguided. So I plan to vote against this, and I hope others will join me.
Other comments or discussion? Member Woolrath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to relate a little bit of my personal background on this. I come from, some of you know that I come from a business family, and I'm not, my branch of the family is no longer involved in this family business in New York. And that business, however, of course, has been shut down for months now, and is probably, I don't know, very hurting drastically. And my heart goes out to it because I was essentially born and raised in that family business and actually worked there many times as a kid over the summer. So my heart goes out, and I understand what it's like to be a business person. My heart goes out to our local businesses and everything that they're suffering, and we all are as a result. We'd all love to go out and shop and go to our favorite restaurants. But I believe that this plan foresees a partnership with our health department being very involved, and they're telling us they're not quite ready to do what is laid out in the plan. And as Carla very well spoke to the situation, it also foresaw other community partners and counties involved, and they're not coming along with it. So it's very difficult for me I cannot see how I can vote for a plan that can't be materialized in any real sense. Also, I think I think our best efforts are made to make sure that we have all our rules and regulations perfectly clear and well promulgated for people so they can understand them, reach them easily, and get help with them whenever. When we have a place where our own citizens, our own residents can file a complaint if necessary. And so there's plenty of public information. We really have to make sure there's public confidence in whatever it is that's done with it. You want to go in a place, you want to know that you're safe, that the ultimate that can be done is being done to protect everybody involved in that, in the customers and the employees as well. Because ultimately, that is what's going to result in consumer confidence. And the consumer confidence is what's going to help bring back the economy. So I think our best efforts are made in trying to get those pieces put together. And so I'll just stop there. Thanks.
Thank you. Before we move on in this discussion, I want to clarify a point. I want to ask all of you, did you see the addition to the resolution, whereas it was submitted by Member Erickson? Did you all receive that? Did the members didn't receive the difference in the change on the whereas, Member Erickson, in the resolution?
I didn't send it to him. I didn't know I was supposed to.
I want to make this point because Member Erickson submitted a change in the resolution. I would just want to clarify and be sure, and I will read it to you, and you can include that. I apologize if we didn't get it out to you staff-wise, but there is an addition to the resolution. I believe, am I correct, Member Erickson? Is an addition to the resolution?
Can I expound on the facts just a little bit, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. This is the point that needs to be clarified and added at this time.
Yeah, what happened was when I had saw the resolution, I had sent a email to Jessica and Don, and I said, I think it might be a good idea to add this to the resolution, and that's where it was at. That's where it ended. It didn't go any further than that. So, but I'm more than happy to have that added in there. I just wanted people to know that's kind of what the process was.
Yeah, I'm looking at your addition. That's why I'm asking. Do you want to read it? Do you have it in front of you?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman. Could you read it for me?
Yes, I will. Whereas each business remains responsible for their own compliance with Illinois state regulating bodies and are wholly responsible for their own liability in conducting business. I'll repeat that if you need it. I'll put it, submit it for the record if need be. And you are in agreement with that, Member Erickson?
Yes, it was, if, in my original resolution that came from Clark County, that language was in that resolution. And so my suggestion was we ought to just take it and move it over and put it into this resolution. So yes, I am in agreement with you, Mr. Chairman. That answers your question.
All right, thank you. Do I need to repeat that or do you all have it now? If not, I'm sorry. Member Schaefer?
Please repeat that.
I'll do it one more time here. Whereas each business remains responsible for their own compliance with Illinois state regulating bodies and are wholly responsible for their own liability in conducting business. Everybody get all right? Thank you. We'll move on. Member Went was next and then Ms. Chung. We're still in round one.
No, okay, here I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first thing I'd like to know from the health department is they said they were going to wait till July to start hiring people. Why aren't they? I know my understanding that the health department has substantial reserves. So why aren't they trying to hire people right now so that they can be up front and ready to go?
Sure, so good question. In talking with county administration, the human resources, that's really the timeframe for hiring. So when I'm speaking of July, I'm speaking of when we could potentially have someone in place. So just posting the job, and interviewing applicants and trainings and everything, getting all of that taken care of.
Can't start actually hiring anybody till July, or can we
Well,
start hiring somebody right away?
Yeah, well, we're going to start posting for the positions and start the hiring process, but July is an estimate of when we would actually have someone and more than one person selected and in place.
Because it seems to me there's a lot of people out there looking for jobs.
Yes.
And the second thing, and I think that what Chuck added to this is correct. I've heard a lot of talk about, well, a tavern or bar might lose their liquor license. Well, we're not forcing businesses to open. We're just saying they can open. And so then it's up to the owner. And I understand in the governor's plan right now that gymnasiums cannot be opened. And I'll tell you, if you have ever seen what they're doing in other states with their gymnasiums and their workout, is they're limited to maybe 25 or 50% of the capacity of that gym, and everybody's 6 feet apart when they're on those different machines, and they're using sanitation. So there's no reason that gymnasium or gyms shouldn't be open. And I think that all businesses should have the opportunity to open. Now, the businessman himself will make the decisions and the risks involved in preventing anybody from getting sick in his business. And the fact that the people that are most vulnerable and have died, about 99% of them, have been people like myself that have a pre-existing condition. And in the states like Florida, they immediately got their people to their nursing homes. Florida did that immediately, worked on their nursing homes and their older people to get them to work on the virus, whereas then they let the younger people be open. So I think this is just an idea that we should go ahead with. And when we say that the other 10 counties aren't going to pass it, well, maybe if we lead, they will pass it. Now, if they don't pass this same one and their businesses are closed, I think people from those counties will come to our county and come to our businesses. But I quite frankly think that some of the other counties will rethink it and join with us. So I think it's a very good idea to do this, to get out front, get as many of our businesses open as possible. We need the revenue. Thank you.
I'd like to make one. I'm sorry, Member Chung, I'd like to make one comment, then I'll call on you next. Regardless of what plan is agreed on to be supported by the county board tonight, our business owners are going to have to make the same decisions or whether or not they are going to open against either type of a plan. I just want to make it a point to say that it should be really well known and communicate with the public that we cannot ask a restaurant owner to operate under the false impression that the county board is authorizing them to open under a plan that is different than the plan that they're currently under and risk the fact that they could lose their license. But I want to make another point too. Liability wise, if a restaurant owner operates and opens inside dining because the county board approved that, or 50% as the HOI plan says, and their license is removed, then do we assume the liability that they could sue the county for that? So I just want you to consider that because it is another option. Member Chung, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one quick question about the amendment that Member Erickson added. Is there, I guess, does it matter where it's added in this resolution, or could you tell us where it's being put in after which paragraph?
I cannot, but
Okay.
I'll ask that. Thank you.
No, thank you. But I also
point
have
of order. I have a point of order or a question, perhaps it is.
Could you wait
You
till-
you keep referring to which plan we are going to be supporting. What the motion that's on the table is whether or not we're supporting the HOI plan. We are not being asked here to support the governor's plan. That is by default where we're at. We're being asked whether we want to overlay or instead of or something this other plan. So I just want to clarify that or ask if there's any anybody who would dispute that fact.
It was my assumption that if we don't support the HOI plan, we're going to continue to support the Restore Illinois plan. That was my assumption when I stated that. If that will answer your question sufficiently. Member Chung, you had the question of where it's placed in there. I cannot tell you. Is there somebody on staff that can? Be patient with us.
no problem.
So sorry, it's a whereas clause and a preamble to it. So it could be, I would put it, if you have the packet on page 4, between whereas, and it sounds to me like this is a friendly amendment, whereas it is imperative to the livelihood of the citizens of McLean County that they reopen their businesses as quickly as possible, and comma, then the new language in there right before the last whereas clause at their May 13, 2020 meeting. So that seems to be where it would make sense, but it could go anywhere in the preamble of the whereas clause.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
Thank you.
So now I also have a statement to make. Is that all right, Mr. Chairman, if I can do that now?
Would you mind waiting the second round?
Oh, okay. All right, will do.
I promise I'll call on you this time, Ms. Chung. Member Barnett, first round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a bit of a clarifying question, and this is probably best directed for the state's attorneys, and I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot with this. If we pass this resolution this evening, I mean, does this overlay and apply to the entire county? Does this only apply to businesses that are in the unincorporated areas? Will this apply to businesses that are within the city limits of Bloomington and Normal and, you know, a place like Carlock? How does all of that work if the local municipalities are not endorsing the things that are in this plan?
So And,
Sorry to
and
put you on the spot with that, but
that's all right. And it's a complicated question. As the chairman said, and we've talked about both, I think at the full county board meeting and then at the special board of health meeting, the various level of authorities. And it's not a real clean cut, clear answer, given that I think at last count, we had over 150 some different taxing bodies in McLean County alone. I mean, that's just the system that the General Assembly has laid out for Illinois. So ultimately, we have, unlike some other jurisdictions, we have one health department. It is a county health department. And as I've been pretty, and it sure seems like from the state of Illinois, they are leaning on local health departments, the IDPH, and the DCEO to enforce anything, whether, I mean, you choose the governor's plan, choose the HOI plan, choose a set of metrics. So what it seems to me, Josh, is that what happens here tonight informs the health department of what the county board's wishes are. And they would consider that in all of their enforcement actions throughout the county, right? And that might muddy the waters more than clarify them, but does that make sense at all? No? Okay. So let me maybe clarify it this way. So the county health department most likely isn't going to go out and look to do liquor license enforcement, right? And this plan, to my knowledge, and again, I haven't studied the plan at all, doesn't call on a county health department to go out and do liquor license enforcement. So while the county health department will look to go out and enforce the Illinois Department of Public Health Act, regardless of where they are in the county, the city and the town could decide to take totally different enforcement actions for liquor license holders, as could the state of Illinois. Does that clarify it at all?
yeah, I guess and the thing I was thinking about was that if we pass this and restaurants are able, according to the Heart of Illinois plan, to have people dining indoors at I think it's at a 50% rate, and and a municipality doesn't want the restaurants in their municipality to do that, are they going to send their police department in and tell that owner to shut it down, or does that end up with the health department? Or
well, we don't represent the police departments. I think all of from everything I've seen in McLean County, and with the governor withdrawing the IDPH emergency rule, making it a Class A misdemeanor that was available for 6 days, I think everybody is well aware that, and people are well on record, that nobody's getting arrested, nobody's going to jail for violating the executive order, for a mere violation of the executive order. Now, whether a municipality would send law enforcement out to serve a notice that they believe they're going to take an action against a liquor license, that's a totally different story that you'd have to ask as a municipality. But I think, as I believe Member Erickson and certainly the chairman have said, that whether you pass this or not, that helps to inform the businesses, the general public, of what steps they want to take or need to take to reopen. They will be, regardless of whether you pass this, they will engage their counsel. And I heard from 3 different daycares today, their lawyers today, on what steps they're going to take. And I can't speak for Mrs. McKnight, but I believe Jessica's probably heard from businesses as well. And every business is going to go through a progression of, what do we open? Do we open? How do we open? And I think this just provides them more information. So I don't know that I answered your question. It would, like I say, this informs or helps inform the health department of what you expect them to take in enforcement action. As we've said before, the county board has no operational authority over the health department, the same way they have no operational authority over the sheriff's department. So those operational decisions of what they go out and enforce are gonna be made regardless of what you decide here tonight. No?
so, Mr. Chairman, may I ask a follow-up question?
Is it related?
Yes.
Okay,
All right, so if we pass this plan tonight, it's not even for sure that the health department is necessarily required to follow what's in the plan and to implement the steps that are laid out in it.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay.
And, but I think you've also heard the back and forth that at least I've heard from both the county board and the health department is there's been a healthy respect of, I believe at one of the health department meetings, either the special meeting or the meeting before that, they asked for the county board to weigh in and the county board also asked for them to weigh in, right? It's a conversation and that helps inform the general citizenry of what they can expect by way of enforcement. And again, I didn't see everything that went on down in the special legislative session with the General Assembly, but I think this was the kind of deliberation that the citizens wanted to have a legislative body have a conversation about this. And maybe it happened. My focus was elsewhere on some other laws that were being passed, but so if the question is, so what does it matter? I think it matters a great deal to the general citizen.
Thank you.
I'm still on round one. Anyone else that would like to speak for the first time? Member Casely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason that we are here tonight is because of the way that our governor has handled this situation from the very outset. And if he had been more collaborative with local governments, if he'd been more collaborative with the General Assembly, if he had convened the General Assembly to take up this problem, then probably we wouldn't be here this evening. But he decided that he was going to just go ahead on his own and proceed to put these burdensome rulings in place with respect to private businesses. And he was not prepared to offer any help to the businesses. And so the businesses have suffered, but we have to remember that it's not only businesses that have suffered in the state of Illinois, but it's also other groups of people. And the other groups of people are primarily people who are powerless, and they are our children. And he caused the schools to close, and there was no pandemic among school-age children, but he closed the schools and put them all on remote learning, and he has caused them a great deal of trouble. He has interfered with the exercise of freedom of religion in the state of Illinois. I think he could have said,
Call on you until the second round.
he could have said that he was going to meet with a group of bishops or other people in the churches or rabbis, and he did not do that. He just imposed this group of regulations, and I don't think he had the authority to do it. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court agrees with me, and they overruled this, and the state of Wisconsin declared it unconstitutional. And the children is the most egregious thing of all, though, because they didn't get a chance to play spring sports. They didn't have their spring musicals. They did not have proms. They are, many of them, not even going to have a high school commencement. And these are serious consequences for if you're a school student. And then, since then, we've discovered that we're not going to have activities in the parks, and most egregiously, the swimming pools are going to be closed, except perhaps in Chenoa and maybe some other smaller towns. But in Bloomington and Normal, the swimming pools are all going to be closed this summer, for the entire summer. Even though we have millions of dollars invested in those facilities, we're not going to be able to use them. And I think that all of this comes right to the foot of the governor in undertaking some of these very drastic steps. It would have been better if the legislature had met and talked about these things, heard from various interested groups, and given them an opportunity to be heard before these regulations were put into effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for round one? I'm sorry, I'm looking at hands.
Mr. Gordon.
Member Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By your leave, could I yield to Member Johnston, who has had her hand up, I think at least as long as I have. And then I'd like to say something too.
Yes, okay. You may do so, or you can speak now if you want. I just now can see her hand, and so I apologize. Either way, you're both on round one, I mean. Member Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I've been trying to get in since the very beginning. But this last comment.
Member Johnson, so I'm sorry that I missed you, but I didn't even see your hand. Everybody's trying to get in. We'll go one at a time. I'll keep a list. All right.
Okay. All right. First, I want to remind everybody that, we are living in a pandemic, and while we have made every effort here in McLean County to be extra careful, and our efforts have been very, very successful. I want to remind us that we are the only state in the union that is actually meeting the 5 markers for opening by the federal guidelines. So the efforts that have been put in place by our governor have been very successful. And I think that the Heart of Illinois plan was really, as much as I think that Peoria put it together to bring it forward and to put it into place, it actually kickstarted a collaborative discussion with the governor, and he's made the adjustments. Some of the issues that I had with the Heart of Illinois plan were about the potential spread and the opening up into these into businesses, into bars, into restaurants, where we would see the highest rate of transmission. And so with the adjustment that he's made in that collaboration, right, this is a compromise that he has made. The changes that are coming into place tomorrow show that he is trying to collaborate with us. And I think that the reason that the other counties have pulled back is because it has been effective in being able to support our businesses and get them open to a safe degree. I know that if we go forward with restaurants opening at 50% capacity and we see a sudden surge and we have to backtrack, that will be the end of many businesses. So especially like the restaurants who they had all of their supplies, all of their food, and then they had to find it, they had to give it away or donate it, or they gave it to their employees. And now they're going to be stocking up again. If we have to reset, if we have to step back into a previous stage because of an outbreak, that will be the end. And so the constituents that I have heard from in District 5, the majority of them, the vast majority of them really, because we didn't know what the health department was going to say, advocated that we support what the health department says. I mean, we asked them for their opinion. We asked them if they were ready to implement it, and their answer was a sound no, they are not ready right now. And so I feel very uncomfortable moving ahead with the Heart of Illinois when we don't have the backing of the health department, when their entire purpose is protecting the life and well-being of the residents of McLean County. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Member Erickson, at the very beginning of this conversation, or nearly at the beginning, made reference to the fact that we have metrics, and we do. Ms. McKnight seemed to suggest rather clearly that the capacity to measure against those metrics is not in place. And the metrics are critical. We need to be able to test, we need to be able to contact trace, and we have to have the capacity in place to isolate or quarantine based on contact tracing. Without all of those in place, I find it very difficult to vote to move ahead. It is significant to me that Peoria County have pulled back the and the questions raised by Member Barnett and the responses from State's Attorney Knapp suggest to me that there is a distinct lack of clarity regarding enforcement, no matter what form that takes. All of those combined, to me, suggest that it is risky in several senses, that it is risky to vote to move ahead. Whatever else may be said about who else has done what, we're a legislative body being asked to make a decision. And I think the conversation has been constructive, and I think it has been useful. And I hope that you will consider the possibilities that I'm suggesting, that having the metrics is one thing, being able to apply them and use them in a truly measurable way is something else. And if Ms. McKnight indicates that the health department doesn't yet have the capacity to do that, I can't support moving ahead with any plan that depends on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on round one? First time, Member Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have some questions for Ms. McKnight.
Okay.
My questions are the metrics that were on page 11 of the plan, the HOI plan, when they came up with those metrics for the scores and things like that, to get green, yellow, and red in their little chart thing. One of the things that I know that was concerning was the ICU beds in use and the availability on that from the hospital standpoint. That was discussed at the Board of Health meeting, meaning it had to be 80%. Is that correct? I can't remember, but it was at 80% had to be available for the hospitals to actually perform elective surgeries and things like that.
I do not remember what that was. For the green score, it's less than 75% in use.
Right.
More than 80% for red reversal.
Okay. And then on the next page where it talks about the completion and posting of self-assessment, is that something that would have to be completed prior to a business wanting to move forward with the HOI plan?
Yeah, so these
Is that
are
the way you read that?
That's the way I interpret it, is that greater than 90% of the businesses would have in the county would have to complete that self-assessment in order for us to be in that green and to be able to move forward. And so obviously these are metrics that Peoria County has developed. And so they're things that we would have to kind of go back to the drawing board to put in place of how do we get that self-assessment and get those things in place.
So if we voted on this tonight and we voted to support this plan and want to move forward with this plan that isn't a region anymore kind of plan, then those establishments that want to like dine-in eating that they have as 50% in that first phase or first stage of their plan, 90% of the restaurants would have to have that, or 90% of all businesses, or would have to have that before we can say, you would say go ahead. I'm not sure how the logistics of this would work out on that, because then or do they all have to do this before we can actually move into that phase? Because that means that we're not even at that phase to even start an implementation. You understand what I'm asking there?
I do. I don't have an answer for you, but I can think what you're asking, because my assumption reading the plan is that in order for the 3-week period to be able to move to the next phase, that you have to be in that green score, meaning that you would have to have 90% of the businesses. But yeah, it's a great question of, are we just looking at restaurants, or are we looking at all the businesses that are open in that phase?
So are you saying that we are not even ready to implement the plan, even as it stands? Because we are not in the right phase yet. We're still in phase 0 of the plan because we don't have all these things in place. Is
Yes.
that what you're saying?
Especially if we are to
Thank
go on this standalone, yes, we're not at that point.
Thank you.
Can I have one more question?
Is it related?
Yes, because they're all in that whole table thing there.
Okay.
On that table's based on the regional numbers of ICUs and stuff like that. But then if there's no region, then how does that work with being only one? How would you approach that with only having the 2 hospitals?
No, the data that I've been compiling is then just for the counties, the hospitals in McLean County. So obviously that does put us at a risk then for if we do have surge in just our hospitals and we do see individuals from outside our county. So that's definitely something that I've got in place for our county, but we're not looking at the entire region anymore. We're just looking at McLean County.
Thank you. Member Thompson, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I just commend all my colleagues for a really good debate. This is a really serious issue. I've been on boards for a long time, excuse me, a long time, and this is top of the list, unfortunately. It comes down to me, whether we do, doesn't matter what we do tonight, there's going to be consequences. The people that have contacted me have overwhelmingly wanted to move forward with something. I think of people that in business that have no revenue, people out of work. To me, that is just heartbreaking for them. I understand that there's consequences if we move forward, but we have to move forward safely. But the consequences to me of not moving forward in some fashion are greater than sitting back and waiting. So I am in support of moving forward. So with that, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Any other comments in round 1? If not, I'm sorry, Member Wachitsky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to reiterate that I'm really glad to hear some of the conversation here tonight, because this is undoubtedly one of the biggest decisions we'll probably ever make. Hopefully we'll ever have to make. Hopefully we're not living in another pandemic. And I think in times like this, we need to call on the professionals, which is why we reached out to the Board of Health and the Health Department and others. And I don't think it's, I think it's important to reiterate that they've said no. The creators of this plan have backed away and they're not a part of this. I think it's important for us to listen to those and keep reiterating the professionals that have weighed in and looked at this plan. This is what they have come to. And we really need to weigh that knowledge as opposed to emotion. And that's just where I'm sitting right now.
Thank you. Anyone else on round 1? We'll go to round 2. Ms. Chung, thank you for your patience, and you are up on round 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess what I wanted to say was that I've been really, heartened by what I've seen in our community around here as businesses have really tried to adjust to this new reality. We've seen people doing sort of curbside pickup or more online ordering, these sort of innovations to keep people engaged, to keep customers buying things, and even same with the curbside restaurant pickup and things like that. And now as we're moving into this sort of hopefully outdoor dining situation, maybe tomorrow, I've seen all these other businesses in our town and in the area all have been trying to come up with a plan, and same with working with the city of Bloomington to come up with a plan on how to configure seating in a safe way. So I've been really heartened to see this sort of collaborative effort. And I guess what I'm not quite understanding is how people have been saying how we need to reopen things right now. We need businesses to reopen. Like, I guess, and that it sounds like that there's nothing happening when actually there are businesses that are reopening or people are adapting. I mean, there's a business that's in the district in which I serve. They're actually doing these sort of Facebook Live things, showing what they have in their, in their stock, and then people can, message them and say that they want to buy such and such a thing. And I actually bought a hat yesterday in that way. And so, for Member Thompson, honestly, to say that we need to reopen things right now, and to me, I don't quite understand, because businesses are reopening in this new way, and we have to face the fact that things are not going to be in this sort of, we are in this reality for now, and we have to adjust. And for me personally, I've been kind of reluctant to even bring up my own personal situation, but many of you know I'm a professional musician. When large gatherings were banned on March 12th, within 90 minutes, almost all of my concerts for 2 months were canceled. And that for both of me and my husband, because he's also a musician. And we have lost in the thousands of dollars for our family. And it's taken a huge hit on our budget. I play a lot of weddings during the summer. All of those have also gotten canceled. So, so we're living on a budget right now, because also I do not know how, if live music will return anytime soon. And, but at the same time, I trust our sort of public health officials and people, experts in the field, who know how things like this spread. And I am, I've come up with innovative ways. That's what's actually helped me kind of get through this, is I've kind of come up with my own innovative ways of how to adapt to this new reality. So I guess what I would like to say to all the businesses out there, because I've heard from many people, and my heart goes out to all of you, because I have suffered through this as well, and me and my family, that I hear you, and I want nothing more than for things to go back to normal, but that really isn't the way it's going to be. And so if this thing passes tonight, this Heart of Illinois plan, what I'm afraid of is that it will just cause confusion amongst the community, because people might not know what plan they should follow or what each plan entails. And with confusion, I'm afraid that more people will get sick and die. And I don't want that on my conscience personally. So thank you for allowing me to speak. And I'm not going to support this plan tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We're still on round two now. Anyone else? Round two? Member Wendt?
Yeah, I'm here. I want to get a clarification too from the state's attorney. I think I'm not an attorney, but Chairman, thank you much. But comment something about
Member Wendt, can't hear you.
Well,
try again
now.
Yes.
All right. The clarification on, I think you made a comment, something about that the county might be able to get sued if a business opened up under this. I'm not an attorney, but I don't think there's any suit there. Then I've got some other comments I want to make, but I'd like to, maybe the state's attorney would weigh in on that.
George, we worry about, my colleagues and I worry about liability in two facets with everything that's going on in enforcement for COVID-19 restrictions. First of all, and on weekly and sometimes bi-weekly Illinois State Police calls, law enforcement has asked numerous times whether, if the governor wants law enforcement to enforce his executive order and it's ultimately found unconstitutional or an abuse of authority beyond the 30-day requirement in the 30-day time frame in the Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act, is the state willing to indemnify local units of government who seek enforcement for Section 1983 liability in the federal statutes. That answer has never been answered, or that question has never been answered. So on the one hand, we worry about whatever enforcement action we take, if ultimately, and we won't know the answer to this for 2 or 3 years, the governor has been found to overstep his authority, will we suffer liability and suits for taking those enforcement actions? On the flip side, we worry about if the governor's plan says enforcement needs to take place on the 5-phase program, and a different plan is implemented by a local jurisdiction, and Ms. McKnight gets a call saying that a restaurant has 50 people in indoor dining, and the governor's plan says they can only have 10 people or they can't have any indoor dining, and we take no action. We worry about an outbreak there and being sued from people saying, if you would have taken enforcement action, we wouldn't have gotten sick. So that's the potential liability on implementing a plan different than the governor's. And we've talked to our insurance carrier on both issues, saying, where is our coverage for either scenario? If we take enforcement action and the governor's plan is found to be unconstitutional or an invalid exercise of authority, will we have insurance coverage? And conversely, if we don't take enforcement action and somebody gets sick, will we have coverage? And the best answer that we've gotten so far is that insurance coverage questions can only fully be answered when you have a full set of facts, just like criminal liability. So what we would expect in the insurance coverage is we probably run risks either way. We think there is no infectious disease exclusion in our policies, but we certainly run the risk of, if we don't follow the governor's plan, having to defend actions under a reservation of rights. And that's what I go back to. I go back to what I told the Board of Health a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I don't remember. We know whether it's the governor's plan or the Heart of Illinois plan, if we follow the guidelines in the Illinois Department of Public Health Act, we will have no liability. And so I don't know if that answers your question, George, but that's the most complete answer I can give.
As Dixon said about economists, he wanted one with only one hand. Now you're making me have an attorney with only one hand. Now, I don't think the liability is any different for us one way or the other, whether we pass this or the governor's. You've got the thing of enforcement either way, whether we enforce something or don't enforce something. But I just think that we have to look at the fact that it's lives versus lives. And there's people out there in businesses that are losing their businesses throughout the nation. I don't know if we've had any of this in McLean County, but there's been a spike in different types of deaths because of the shutdown. Might even have equaled the amount that the virus has taken. And the longer these businesses are shut down, I think the more chances you have of businesses going out of business or filing for bankruptcy, and that causes lots of problems. And then the comment was made somewhere other than nursing home, I think restaurants or something had the greatest amount of people that got the virus. That's incorrect. It's nursing homes is where most people got the virus, and that's in probably most states. And the second, which is kind of astounding, is in people that stayed home. And that has baffled the national experts, finding out that it's in that group. And to follow that, it's also in the age group above 70 and then above 80, where all the fatalities, most of the fatalities are in the for the virus. Now, in Florida, they protected their senior citizens, and I think here senior citizens can make the choice. I myself, I've got some underlying conditions, so I'm going to be a lot more careful. If I was 40 years old, I'd go to the first restaurant that opened up for inside eating, because my chances of getting the virus would be pretty slim. And even if I got it, it hasn't been that serious for the younger people. So I think we ought to go ahead with this program. Hopefully, if we're the leader, some of the other counties will come along. And if they don't come along, some of our businesses will probably get extra business, because we're on the front line of this, of opening up different businesses. Thank you much.
Thank you. Still on round two. Anyone else? Member Solder?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to clear up one thing that was mentioned earlier in the meeting. There was a comment that the rural mayors had not necessarily decided to go along with the program. I was just being texted with Mayor of Downs, Mike James. I attended virtually, remotely, several meetings that the mayors associations had. I wasn't able to attend the last one. They're going to make a decision tomorrow night. They're having a meeting tomorrow night. They're going to decide then whether to adopt or recommend whatever the Heart of Illinois plan. I do know that prior to the last meeting, there was a majority of members, mayors, that were in favor of it. I don't know specifically what that number was, but I do know, though, at that time they were in favor of the plan. So I just wanted to bring that forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have a question for Mr. Knapp. And it's about the legality of the resolution that they're considering tonight. You had talked about the possibilities of Governor Pritzker's order and the Restore Illinois plan and enforcement of that plan being subject to the courts. Is this resolution within our power? And do we run the risk of being taken to court for the Heart of Illinois plan and enforcement or lack thereof?
I believe what the resolution says is it asks the health department to immediately implement the HOI plan. It doesn't demand the health department immediately implement the HOI plan, because you don't have the authority to demand the health department do that, no more than you have the authority to tell the sheriff to go out and start arresting people for violating the governor's order or the HOI plan or anything. So that you do have the authority to take the action in the resolution. I think that's pretty clear. And I don't worry about passing this resolution. I don't see legal liability for just passing this resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Round two. Member Baird.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few comments. Again, this has been a really good discussion. And I think we should acknowledge that over the past 10 days, there have been changes to the Restore Illinois plan. With outdoor dining, with childcare, and today with churches. Now, I don't believe we received advance notification of that. The legislature didn't comment on that. And now we're implementing that. So the concept that the Restore Illinois plan is orderly and able and predictive, and the Heart of Illinois plan is haphazard, that is not the case. I think it is a pandemic. We are responding to facts on the ground. The governor has responded to facts on the ground. So it is the discrepancies, I think, are less now than they were 30 days ago. Absolutely. But at the same time, to say that the changes today, for example, on churches, or the change on childcare, to say that the science was one way before and it's another way as of now is not the case. So we have to acknowledge that the Restore Illinois plan contains science, which matches with the Heart of Illinois plan, to keep us safe, to prevent unnecessary death and loss of life, which is all our number one concern. But it also contains policy questions that, as a legislative body, we can address. I did have a couple of questions for Ms. McKnight, if she is still there. Would it be, and I completely understand the concern with the metrics and the cost, would it be fair to say that the Heart of Illinois plan is medically sound and contains more comprehensive metrics and tracking than the Restore Illinois plan at this point in time? And would it also be fair to say that if we did vote in favor of this today, that would be something that we would be able to, I get it, tomorrow all those things aren't there, but that these are valuable and good metrics? I'm thinking about the community engagement metric, which does not exist, which is not contemplated in Heart and Restore, but isn't in Heart of Illinois. Are those type of metrics, are those things that are with funding or within our ability to set up and go live as we move forward through June? And again, if there is a second wave in the fall, in the winter, a way that sets us up to be better prepared for that. Thank you.
Yes, so yes, the metrics, as I mentioned before, they're good. And so definitely speak to public health. And I think you made a good point that with time, as my memo said, with time and obviously the funding that we have, we could put in place the measures to implement this plan. It just not at this moment. And also, we're looking at metrics that, again, were based on a region. And so we would be in turn looking at metrics for just McLean County, which could potentially, you have to look at the potential of leaving us in a phase for longer or pushing us back, depending on that.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, Sharon, I think this is my last thought on my second round. Today, Ms. McKnight, it is correct today that we are being in the Northwest region. We are grouped right now with like McLean, with Galena, which is 3.5 hours away, with Rockford. So in theory, there could be an outbreak in McLean County where in reality, maybe we do need to take a step back. But if those other areas are doing well, per Restore Illinois, we may move forward. Or likewise, we could be doing great, but if there is an outbreak in Moline or in Rockford, that we would have to hold back. Same thing for testing. Testing under Restore Illinois, I don't think strictly has to happen in McLean County. So there could be ample testing in Northwest Illinois in those other metropolitan areas. And in theory, we're still moving with the rest of, with that large part of the state, which again spans 3.5, 4 hours corner to corner.
Yeah, you're correct. And so yes, definitely the metrics are good. It's just, again, are the measures in place to implement this tomorrow? No, they're not.
Okay, anyone else? Member Schaefer, second round.
Yeah, that was what I was going to question when the word immediately, because immediately, even though if we do pass this tonight, we can't do this tomorrow. And so I think that we are, by doing that, we're maybe sending a message that tomorrow is something different than today, but it's really not any different than today. And so I kind of question why we're doing this in that respect, because obviously we can't do this with the health department. So when you want to implement something immediately and it says, upon passage and signing, that would mean it could even be tonight if that's what happened. But the health department can't do that. And we are asking it, the county board says it desires the Board of Health and the health department to immediately implement this. They can't do that. I mean, they flat out said they can't do that immediately, effective as soon as this meeting is over with. So I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if you really want to vote it down or if we want to vote something like we are supporting this plan. We'll like send a letter to the governor saying that we support this in that respect. But to actually implement anything in this tonight, I'm not sure that can happen. And so do we want to look or think about changing what we're doing here, whether it be changing to maybe even table this to get more information from like the rural mayors and things like that? Or do we want to just change it to say something like support this plan and in the resolution, change the wording in the resolution? That was just kind of I'm just kind of throwing that out there as to how to address I'm trying to find the middle ground here between everybody as to how to move forward, because yes, I believe that there's things that need to open and that aren't being opened even under the phase 3 of Restore Illinois. So I'm trying to find some way that we can work together between the health department and Board of Health and the county board, because if we say, as the county board saying, oh yeah, we're going to implement this plan, but then, and I'm going to use restaurants just as an example, they're not going to have all these things done. So they're not going to be able to do what they might want to do tomorrow. So I guess we have to have a better timing, a date, and she does have that in her memo as to how long it would take on some of these other things. So I guess that's where my question is
Member Shaver, are you wanting to offer an amendment to the resolution?
Yeah, but I don't have anything prepared at all. I have no clue.
Well, you mentioned two areas.
Right. And so instead of, we could go through and instead be it resolved that the County Board of McLean County desires the Board of Health and to support the Restore Illinois stage implementation plan. I'm not sure how to word that because it really doesn't exist in other than what it is now when nobody else is going to do it. So is it really not the HOI plan anymore? So I guess that's where I'm coming from. Or do we just want to send a letter of support, like, a regular letter and change all that wording?
Okay, Member Roselli?
Thank you. I appreciated Member Schaefer's comments. I think, and I just said, I've heard a lot from some of the proponents of this that started sentences with, I think, I believe, I would hope. The problem for us is going to be tomorrow, we're not going to be able to say, I believe, I think, or I would hope to our constituents who are going to ask for specificity. The devil is in the details of this. This is, I think we all agree they want to do the right thing. But in order to do the right thing, they're going to need extremely granular details. What does that look like? What does that mean? The epidemiologist who is behind this plan has abandoned the plan. She's not using this plan. So yeah, I think actually to Member Beard's comments, I applaud the governor for being responsive to the latest epidemiology and scientific information regarding making changes to his plan, to the plan he's rolling out. I wish that he would be more communicative about that, but I applaud that. That's exactly what should happen. Science should drive the way in which we're opening. And what you didn't say, Member Beard, was every time he makes those changes, he sends highly detailed information that is used by health departments all across the state, including our own. So they're able to provide and convey that information when they get phone calls from those that will have to decipher what they're able to do and what they're not. So what I stand here today thinking is, okay, tomorrow or after this meeting, if this passes, I'm going to get questions. You're all going to get questions. What are you going to say? What guidance are we going to give? Good luck. You're on your own. try to decipher this. It's your choice. Those are some of the things I've heard tonight. That seems inadequate. That doesn't seem like a responsible way of doing this. So I believe that given what we've heard from our health department, given what we've heard from the chairman regarding this being moot, that the region is not a region, we're not adopting a regional plan, I'd like to make a motion to table this.
To a date certain or?
No.
Table. Is there a second motion to table this? Second member Bloomfield. A motion to table and there's a second. Hang on just a minute, please. Motion to table will not allow for any discussion. So at this time, we'll take a vote on the motion to table by member Robustelli. And I need someone to call the roll.
Ms. Morlock is approaching.
Chairman will vote.
Motion to table the action item on the floor.
Yeah.
Jacob,
And I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback. Was this to a date certain?
No.
this is a motion to table the action item to a date uncertain. No date is set. It's just being taken on the table.
It can be brought up again, but not at any specified date. And there's where we are. Thank you.
Okay. No.
There's too many microphones on, excuse me. That's why there's a lot of.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you want, you can just raise your hand. I will look up. Lindsay,
My vote was
your vote was no, correct, Mr. Beard? If you want to do your thumb down without you turn it on, I'll watch.
my vote was no.
Correct. Lindsay Bloomfield.
Motion to table? Yes.
William Casely.
Yes.
Sharon Chung.
Yes.
Chuck Erickson. No. William John Friedrich.
No. No.
George Gordon.
Yes.
Elizabeth Johnston.
Yes.
Randall Martin.
No.
Catherine Metzger.
No.
Carlo Robustelli.
Yes.
Susan Schaefer.
Yes.
Logan Smith.
Yes.
Jim Soldner.
No.
Gerald Thompson.
No.
Shayna Wachinski.
Yes.
George Wendt.
No.
Lori Woolrab.
Yes.
Josh Barnett.
Yes.
John McIntyre.
Yes.
$12 to 8 as a yes.
Motion to table is carried 12 to 8. We have no further business at this time. Thank you all for all of your great input and debate tonight and considerations and information from our health department and recommendations as well. Have a good night. Stay healthy, and this meeting is adjourned.